Yeah.
All right, here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are live, and I have my new friend here, Lorena Tomasini, and she says that she can help us protect our money and get tax-free income for our retirement. But can you do that, Lorena, for sure? Can you do that today?
It depends.
Okay, we'll see what's going on. We'll see what we can do here on this latest episode of the Authority Project. All right, all right. Here we are. We are all set. I have a bunch of questions for you, Lorena. And I want to ask you this very first question I ask all my guests is tell us about you personally, first of all, and then professionally.
Sure, that's a great question. So, Brian, I was born and raised here in Miami, Florida. Half Cuban, half Argentinian. That's why the Italian last name. I speak Spanish, and I've been told I have a Miami accent. I'm not sure what they're talking about, but I get that often. And something else personal, I enjoy playing the piano and basketball. I can't dunk, but I like to play for fun, as well as playing pool. It's always something fun to
Oh,
do.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Hustling
Mm-hmm.
right there. Hustling. I'm glad you told me because I don't want to. If I ever meet you, I know exactly not to play, what not to play with you. Sure.
Right.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
here we
Mm-hmm.
are. Here we are now. I have so many questions. So I want to know first of all, for people who are joining in, I got Joanne just come in and said good afternoon. Thank you so much, Joanne, for coming in and checking out the show. How are we going to make insurance sexy on this show? I mean, I don't want to. I don't want. I don't know about insurance.
All right.
I don't want to know anything about insurance. Just it's so much work, the paperwork, the numbers. Who needs it? I don't know. I don't know. Tell us how we can the importance of insurance, Lorena. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So, I studied finance when I was in college years ago, and so I am a numbers person. So I guess insurance was a good fit for me, and helping people. Um, so yeah, I mean, what we're gonna talk about today is just general information. Personally, I'm licensed in Florida and Nebraska, so this is just general information, so you guys have an idea of like what type of questions to ask and just get some more information. And I promise we're gonna make it a fun topic, hopefully, and that you guys will get some value out of this time together.
Awesome. So I would say like the majority of my audience right now, they're business owners, they're small business owners mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot goes in their mind about protecting the little bit of money that they are trying to accumulate and keep and sustain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is
Mm-hmm.
the what is your advice for people who are small business and want to have some kind of protection for their business?
Yeah, that's another good question there, Brian. So, as a small business owner, you're always thinking about having enough cash flow, right, for your employees and things like that. But a lot of times we're not thinking about, well, what if something happens to me? How do I continue the business, right? So maybe you have a partnership with somebody, right? Like you guys own the business 50-50. Well, it's very important that that partnership has some insurance behind it, because what insurance does is it transfers the risk from myself or my company to the insurance company, right? So that if something were to happen as a business owner or a partner, that the business can continue. And what I mean by that is like, it's a fancy term. It's called a buy-sell agreement, and that just means that like if I were to pass away, let's say, and I own 50% of a business, then my business partner will have enough death benefit, right, from the life insurance policy to buy my part of the business, right? Because a lot of times we don't think about what if the spouse of that business partner has to come in, right? Maybe I don't want to work with that spouse, right? Because they have no idea about anything going on in the business, or I
Right,
just don't like their attitude, right?
right,
Whatever the case might be. So that provides the surviving business partner a way to continue the business however they would like, right? But the other thing and that's like an extreme case, right? Like a business partner that passes away. But a lot of times we don't think about what happens along the way. What if I'm self-employed and I'm just a business owner here working for myself, right?
right,
What happens if, God forbid, I get diagnosed with something like cancer, heart attack, stroke? These are things that we see often, right? And we see a lot of times people are out there building GoFundMe pages and things like that. And
right.
that's great. But that's also like, back in the day at churches, they would pass around like the hat, right?
Yeah,
When
right,
something would happen.
right,
So, as a business owner, we need to be financially responsible. If something like that were to happen, how can I replace my income while going through that, right? Because you might have health insurance, and that's great. That helps cover the cost of hospital and chemotherapy and that type of stuff. But there's still bills to pay for that as well, right? You have your deductible and all these fancy terms, right? But how are you going to continue paying your salary, paying your own mortgage, paying your employees, right? Depending if you were like, if you brought in all the business, now what? So that's what insurance, and there I'm talking about life insurance
hmm
that provides living benefits. So that just means that you can use part of that $100,000, $200,000 death benefit, whatever the amount is now, to help you pay for things if you're diagnosed with something like a critical illness, which is like cancer, heart attack, stroke, right?
Okay. Now, is that a certain title to that type of insurance, or just a what are we looking for specifically? Is there a name for that?
Yeah, so you can buy that with either a term policy, which is just a policy that lasts, right, like 20, 30 years, or in a permanent plan, which a permanent plan lasts your entire lifetime, right? And people always ask, oh, how do I know what to buy? And I always say it depends on your needs, right? Because each family and each business owner out there is very different. So that's not a specific company or a specific plan. You just want to make sure that you ask the person that you're speaking to, hey, does this policy have living benefits or an accelerated benefit rider that I can use in case of a critical illness or a chronic illness? Um, and yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a broker, and that means that I represent different insurance companies. And there's reasons for that, right? It could be someone's health or what they're looking to get, right? So I can really tailor their solution to their needs. But I like to represent companies that provide the living benefits, because I think that we are living a lot longer than before, and we need to have a policy that does more than one thing, right? Be there for me, not just if I pass away, but be there for me if something happens along the way.
I love that. I love that. Now,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna jump right into this. Jump right into this here.
Yeah, go ahead.
What can we? Uh, what about affording insurance? Because sometimes you feel like we had to go do this monthly payment and then da da da. How long is this? And is it going to be worth it in the long run? About affording.
Right, right.
People get anxiety. Even I do about paying this thing every month. What is that all
Yeah.
about?
So
What do
I
you think
think
of that?
from experience, the anxiety comes because people have this idea or this misconception that insurance is expensive, right? And it's really not, because if we look at the actual rates for people's ages and things like that, and the benefits that they're getting out of it, there's no way that you could, with $100 a month, write a check to your family for $500,000, right? But that's what life insurance does. So even if you've only paid the policy for 3 years, let's give an example here, right? And you're paying $100 a month in the example. In 3 years, you would have paid what, like $3,600 in total. Let's say at the third year, that person passes away and they had a death benefit of $500,000.
Mm,
If we look at it numbers wise, right, it's a good return on investment, because that person paid $3,600 and their family received $500,000 tax free. Okay, because life insurance, at least here in Florida, the death benefit is a tax free death benefit for the beneficiaries, right?
Mm.
Now, obviously, the older you are, the more costly the insurance can be, for a few reasons, right? Not just age, but also health plays a factor. But that shouldn't deter you from getting information, because you can get a policy from $30 a month and up. And no matter what age you are, there's always something for your budget, you know? Now, I always say I might like, I don't know, a BMW as a car, but all I can afford is a Toyota,
Right.
right? It's the same thing with life insurance, right? I might want a $3 million death benefit, but all I can afford is 100,000. Well, 100,000 is better than nothing, right? For your family or for your business,
Okay.
whatever the case might be. So I think, making an informed decision will get rid of a lot of that anxiety, and working with somebody that wants to work with your budget. Because if I'm not listening to you telling me that, hey, all I can afford is $60, and I'm here quoting you $200 a month, that person is not even going to listen to what I'm saying,
Right.
because financially it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Okay. So here's my next question. I see
Yeah.
various amounts of benefits lately, especially some of these new startups. Some
Hmm.
some will give you 100,000, some will give you 500,000, some will give you 1 million. Um, why is there such a difference in benefit from different companies? And should we even discuss those kind of things on different budgets?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I see a lot of companies out there, especially these startups, that we hear that, oh, it's easy, take this off your to-do list, just
Yeah.
sign up online. Like, hold up, we're not buying a pair of shoes that this one's brown and it matches my purse. We're talking about the financial security of your business or your family, right? Depending what the purpose is of
Mhm.
this policy. And a lot of times you'll see advertised, oh, get $1 million in coverage for $20 a month. I'm just putting numbers out there, right?
That's what I
But
want.
they're not telling, yeah, that's what everybody wants, right? The issue is that they're not telling you the behind the scenes, that
Mm,
that quote that they're giving you is for a 25-year-old who qualifies for a preferred plus super non-tobacco rating, right? So the insurance companies, what they do is they'll get your history of your medical records, right? Are you a smoker, your family history? And then based on that, we can give you a quote, right? So I'm not a fan of giving people these preferred plus rates. Personally, I'll give you a standard rate. So that means at age 40, this is what the price is for everybody age 40 for this $1 million in coverage, right?
mm,
Then, after we do the application, the underwriter is going to look at, okay, well, this 40-year-old, he's really healthy. He goes to the doctor every year. He's not taking any medication. His family history looks good. And then the underwriter might come back and say, you know what? We can give this 40-year-old that million instead of the $100 that you quoted him. It can be $50, right? So I rather quote you at $100 than quote you at 50 and then come back and tell you, hey Brian, instead of the 50 that I quoted you, it's now double, right?
right.
So that's a lot of misconception, and it leads to a lot of false hope, or I don't know what to call it, but like, it's, to me, it's misleading, right? I can quote you the $30 a month, but you know, I'm also not looking for a client that's just looking for the cheapest thing either. I mean, to me, it doesn't make a difference if they pay 30 or 50 or whatever, right? To me, it matters that what they're paying is something they can afford month after month, year after year, right? And it's something that they're comfortable with. But that's why I always say you need to make an informed decision. And going online, you can Google this, but it's like everything, I've been doing this 14 years. I hope by now I'm an expert in what I do, right? And
Absolutely.
so I
Yeah.
have the knowledge to go into the different companies and do all this hard work for you, instead of you having to go in there and give out your email and your phone number and now get 1,000 calls on your phone, with
Yeah.
10,000 people that are just looking at quotes like if it's a calculator.
I
And I
hate.
say I'm not a calculator. That's not my job.
Yeah. I
My
hate.
job is to give
Yes.
you,
Yes.
a few quotes and find something. Like I always say, anyways, until we don't do an application and that comes back from the underwriter, we're
Mhm.
not really doing anything. It's just numbers that I'm giving you.
Awesome. That is great. So, with that said, we'll segue into my next question. What are the dangers of signing some insurance plans out there so that we know ahead of time not to do something, not to sign here as opposed to something else?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So let's see. With certain policies, you want to know like, hey, does this policy have like a waiting period, right?
Mhm.
So if it's somebody that's like that has like a lot of health issues, there's policies out there that will say, hey, we won't ask you a whole bunch of medical questions and you'll still get a policy, right? Well, that's great, but you need to ask, hey, is there going to be a waiting period for this? Which is fine because some people, their health wise, that's the only thing they'll qualify for, and they'll still have coverage, right? So what will happen in those types of cases is that if the person passes away before the waiting period, they'll get back all their money that they put, the family, right? Plus some interest. But you need to ask these questions because, if they're not asking you a lot of questions, there's a reason for that.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing I would say, but that's not really something to look out for. That's just something to ask. That's just regular questions to ask, I would say. Also, should you do something with a medical exam or without a medical exam? Nowadays, with COVID, the majority of companies are allowing so they're allowing up to 1 million in coverage, a lot of them, some even more, without doing a medical exam, and you can still qualify for like those really good rates that we talked about earlier, right? Before, if you didn't do a medical exam, yeah, get your policy in 2 days and don't do any blood work, but you might be paying a lot more for that same coverage because you didn't go through the medical exam, right? So it's kind of like a good thing with COVID because now
Right.
you can still get the really good rates and not have to do the medical exam.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I would say get quotes from different companies. To be honest, a lot of companies are not very competitive in price. The price difference might be $1 or $2. But
Mhm.
something to ask is, hey, what rating does this company have?
Mhm.
So just like stocks and things like that, insurance companies are rated like from A to F. I personally only represent companies that are A plus or A, right? Because anything below that is like Y. That's just a
Yeah.
way for you to know that
Yeah.
the companies have enough assets and stuff to pay for their claims, and a company that's been around for a long time. The majority of companies I represent have been around over 50, 60, 100 years.
Okay. So, oh, this is wonderful. So, um, or say when, I should say not what, when is the best time to sign on these insurance, insurance paper or whatever to get started?
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a joke, and it's, hopefully your audience will laugh at this, but but I say if you're alive, you should have life insurance,
Okay.
because we never know. So something really tragic. I got a call from a client that their dad was in the hospital, um, and he was passing away actually from COVID, and the father who was the one that was passing away, he was a veteran,
Mm,
and like it really touched me because the son thought that because his dad was a veteran, that the VA was going to take care of all of their funeral expenses and all this stuff, and that's just not the reality. So the best time to buy life insurance would be a few different stages in your life, right? Either
yeah.
you're young, so you get lower rates and you can keep that lower rate as the years pass by. It always remains the same, right? That's one. When you buy a house is a good time. When you get married, um, maybe when you have grandkids, you want to leave something to them, right?
Right.
So there different times in your life is good. I always say try to buy life insurance before something happens. So before the heart attack, before the diabetes. not because you can't get life insurance when you have those conditions. It just makes it a little bit harder, you know. But
Yeah.
that's why, hey, you have someone like me to
Yeah.
find what company would accept somebody with diabetes or that has a history of heart disease, right? Or whatever the cancer, right? Whatever the case might be.
Awesome. So, with that said, just a deeper dive. Who needs
Yeah.
right now, in your experience, who needs insurance the most in your experience with people you've dealt with?
I think if anybody depends on you, then you need to have life insurance. So that could mean I depend on myself. I need to have life insurance. Why? Because what we talked about earlier, the living benefits, and we haven't touched on yet the tax-free income, right, for retirement.
Yes.
But that's another way, that's another reason to get life insurance. Um, so if anybody depends on you, so if you have small children that are still 18 or even older, right? Because what if you pass away? Who's going to pay for your funeral and things like that, right? Your kids that are now adults who
Mm.
maybe don't have $10,000, $20,000 in their bank account for this, right?
No, no, they do
So we
not.
need to think, huh?
So no, they do not.
No, they do not, right?
Right.
A lot of times we're here living paycheck to paycheck, right? And when something happens, now what? And then that's when the emotions kick in, and the funeral home is like, hey, don't you want to buy extra flowers and extra this? You know, you want to do the best for your parents. And you know, that also has a cost to it. So yeah, I would say when you have kids, if somebody depends on you, like let's say you're 25 or 30 and you still live at home with your parents, or maybe you don't live with them but you help them out financially, well, if something happens to you, how would they continue paying for whatever it is that you're helping, right? Or sometimes people want to leave money for like a charity or a nonprofit, and life insurance is a great way of doing that because you can also designate a charity or a nonprofit to receive the benefits, right? So it's just anything like that, you know, is what I see. Business owners, I feel a lot of business owners here in the US are lacking life insurance, you know. They
Mm,
think, oh, I have a business, so that's fine. Yeah, but there's a lot of cost that goes into that. And what we touched on earlier, well, what if something happens like cancer or critical illness, you know? Personally, I know what that's like. My dad was a business owner and everything was fine until one day he got diagnosed with cancer. And
mm,
then we saw what it meant that my dad couldn't go to work every day and he depended on himself to work. You know, he was a salesperson. So we saw firsthand what it meant to not be prepared for that, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let's go into what for the last topic about getting tax-free income for your retirement.
Yeah. So I want to preface this with saying I'm not an investment advisor, anything like that. I do insurance, okay? And life insurance is always there to be there for when you pass away, or like we talked about the living benefits earlier. But there are certain types of life insurance policies, permanent plans, right? That they build cash value. So what happens is part of the money that you put into the payments, right? It goes into this cash value. Now, the good thing about this is that it works with the S&P 500. So based on how the S&P 500 is doing, right, if it's going up or going down, you're going to get a certain interest rate. The good thing is, I don't know about you, Brian, but if I had money in the stock market, like in a 401k, and all of a sudden it crashes like it did recently,
Yeah.
what happens to my money? Do I keep it or do I lose some money?
You lose big.
You lose, right? You
Yeah.
lose big, right? Okay. Eventually the stock market will recuperate because
Yeah.
that's just it's cyclical, right?
Right.
So with life insurance, when you have the money into a permanent plan, what happens is, let's say one year the S&P 500 on average for the year it did 10%. Okay, then you get 10%. Next year it went down and it did negative 20%. Well, that year, instead of you losing, 20%, you will get 0%. So you just don't get any interest that year.
Mhm.
But that's the big difference between having your money in something that when it goes down you lose money than you keeping your principal and your interest, so
Uh,
that then the next year hopefully it goes back up, and you're not now starting from a negative 20% to get back to where you were to now go back up, right? You just stay where you were and then go up from there. So this is an interesting way of using life insurance to help supplement your retirement income. Okay, it's not to help. I'm not saying don't put your money in your 401k. I'm not saying that. I'm saying supplement some of that in a permanent plan if it's something that you can afford to do, and so forth. So it's just something, an interesting way of supplementing your retirement. You can use that for retirement, or you can use that 20 years from now to go on a trip, right? Whatever you want to do, it doesn't have a label what you need to use the money for.
awesome.
And since it's coming from a life insurance policy, when you take the funds out of there, depending how you take it out and so forth, it is tax free.
Now, is that tax free in any state, or I know some of us are global here.
Again,
Some of us are global
I'm
here,
here
but
in Florida.
okay.
Yeah, I'm here in Florida, so this is for Florida. Again, general information. So you need to find what's going on in your state. Don't
Good.
say, "Hey, Lorena said no, no,"
Yeah.
unless you're calling me because you're
Awkward.
here in Florida. Then I can help you.
They'll come at you. They'll
Okay.
come at you later. She told
No,
me.
no, no. General information. You
General
you go find
information.
someone where
She,
you live.
ladies and gentlemen, she gives
Hmm.
us general information, just making sure. But you can connect with her. You can connect with her. She can tell you some things further, of course. In
Right.
that will segue into the closing of our show here. So where can they find you, Lorena, online?
Awesome. So you can stalk me all over social media. You can find my name or my business um, by searching MALMINS 22, or MOM, Life and Health Insurance Agency.
Awesome,
Yeah, that would
awesome,
be the easiest way.
great. And you also have this here and there as well, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I also host the podcast 12 Minute Talks, where other Florida based business owners and entrepreneurs talk about what they help other people solve in 12 minutes.
Awesome. You can find that anywhere online as well. That podcast.
Yeah. So, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anything like that. And we also have a Facebook page and Instagram page.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Great. And I think if anybody else has questions, please connect with her directly because, of course, we know this is general information. No, this is general information.
Yeah.
But that is great. That is a wrap for today.
Yeah.
I learned a lot in 30 minutes. A lot.
I'm
So,
glad.
yes. So please get in touch with her to learn more about insurance and protecting your money and getting that special get tax free income that I never heard of, never even thought of before. So that's a great thing too. So um, we're about done. We're about done. Please search us here as
All
well.
right.
The sponsor here for this show is the Authority Builders Academy, where we get people like Lorena to come in here and give us special trainings with her authority and her niche and many more. And we help you develop your own authority your own authority platform for yourself, so you can sell what you're great at. And that is all for today. Unless we have anything else from Lorena today, is that it?
No, just want to say thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with your audience.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here. And that is a wrap for this episode of the Authority Project.